On this channel, we build out a huge amount of make.com automations, where we connect different software packages and then automate workflows for different use cases. A common problem we encounter though is there are lots of software packages and lots of websites that, number one, don't have a native make module that you can use, and number two, they don't even have an API, so you can't use the HTTP modules that are available in Make. So then the question is, what are your options? How can you automate workflows with these systems? So today I'm going to be testing out a system called Browse AI, who claim to be able to turn any website into an API without writing a single line of code. This video is not sponsored by Browse AI. I've signed up to their starter package here and paid my money. So I'll be testing this out across both a website and a web app to see, can we actually turn these websites and these web apps into APIs that we can then systematically use within make.com automation. In this video, I'm going to test out 6 different aspects. We'll look at simple retrieval of information, which is kind of your standard API get method. A simple workflow where it's a little bit more complicated than a standard get method. We're looking for kind of a nested structure of information. The third one will be authentication. So I want to see how the system can handle logging into a platform and extracting kind of information behind a login screen. And then that kind of post or create method, can we fill out forms using this system? And can we dynamically inject data into those forms? And then 5 and 6 is, how deep can this system crawl a website? And how complex can the data extraction be for what is a no-code tool? Browser automation and web scraping is generally quite a complex topic, and no-code tools tend to struggle. So interested to see how that plays out. If you'd like access to this make.com blueprint and to this Airtable, so you can use this as a base for your own web extraction automations, then check out the link in the description to our community, the AI Automators, where you'll get full access to all of our system templates that you can see here. We have weekly workshops. We also have very active discussion boards, as well as a make.com masterclass where you can level up your automation skills. We'd love to see you there, so check out the link in the description. So before we begin, let's just have a quick chat about what an API actually does. So at the very basic level, it can either create, retrieve, update, or delete information. And the most common one is retrieve. So that would be a get method on an API, where you're getting a list of items, be it products or events, or you might be getting the kind of the details of a product or an event. Then you have post requests. So you could be creating something by submitting a form, and that might create a listing or create a product or create a support ticket. Or you could be updating. So that might be making modifications to something. Or finally, you could be deleting something. This is called CRUD, create, retrieve, update, and delete. And it's what most APIs will allow you to do to gain access to whatever features are on the website or on the software platform. And in the example of an e-commerce website here, the retrieve piece will be a case of retrieving all of the products in a category or retrieving the individual product details. In terms of creating within this web app, for example, you might be able to create a listing in a real estate app where you put in an address and you fill out a form. Or it could be a case of diving into a listing and making modifications and updates. Or it could be deleting. As you see, there's a delete button there where you can actually delete out something. So then without having a native API for a website or a software platform, it's all down to browser automation. How can you automate clicking of buttons, logging in and the authentication around that, traversing a website through a navigation, and then extracting out key information. That browser automation aspect is crucial if there's no programmatic way to do it, because through the likes of Browse AI, you're essentially simulating a user's interaction via a browser. So first up, simple retrieval. So I've built a bot here that retrieves all of the products in this category on a website. So these products span across lists, so we have pagination. So we need the bot to traverse through the different pages. And for each product on this page, we want to extract this out in rows. So the idea is on make.com, we can ping this bot and we can get back the list of products. Now, we're not diving directly into the product details page yet. We're just looking for a higher level list. So to achieve this within Browse AI, you just click on Build New Robot. You have 2 options. They have an option to extract structured data or monitor site changes. For the moment, we're going to choose the extract structured data option. And then from here, you drop in your URL. Actually, that's page 3. Let's get rid of that. For the moment, we won't use the login. So with authentication, you either use session cookies or passwords. And we'll turn that off for a second because this is a publicly accessible website. And then you start training your robot. You have 2 options. You can either use the Robot Studio or the Chrome extension. I've kind of jumped between both of them. There are kind of issues with both of them that you might see during this demo, but for the moment I'll use the Robot Studio because there are kind of extra features within that. So then this loads up within the studio. The minute this loads, every single click that you do is being tracked. And then when it comes to the robot initiating this kind of task independently of you, it's going to make the same clicks that you do on this page. So for example, if I click here and here And here, can't actually see that. So if I click like that, you can see on the right hand side here, we have all of these mouse clicks. So then if we save this robot and then get it to run, it's just going to navigate to this page and then carry out all those clicks. So when you load up this Robot Studio, you need to be crystal clear as to what it is you're clicking to extract out the various types of information that you want. So I'll discard that and start it again. Okay, so the page is loaded. So you have two options. You can capture a screenshot of the page if you'd like. Here I'm going to capture text. So if you click that, and then you essentially have two options. So you can capture a list, and as you can see in that little animation, they're product cards that you'll be capturing, or you can just extract out specific text. So what we'll do is we're going to choose from a list, and then when you start hovering, you'll see that there are these animated boxes. So you just need to be specific around what boxes you want to actually capture. So if I press that there, and then you can see below, it starts extracting, and there we go. So it automatically pulls out product name, ratings, and reviews. So that's pretty nice. And then you can also set what is the maximum number of rows you want to extract. This is important because depending on what pricing plan you're on with Browse AI, you have a certain threshold or allowance of credits. This is important because this is kind of the currency of Browse AI. So every 10 rows extracted consumes 1 credit. The plan that I'm on has 2,000 credits, which it would be 20,000 rows. So if I put 20,000 here, and then if I ran this bot, it would put a hold on the entire allowance I have of credits until the task is finished. And then whatever unused rows there are, it'll kind of give back to the allowance, or it'll remove the hold. So it's kind of a clunky way of doing it. I don't really like it, but they have implemented it for whatever reason. So what I'll do is I'll just set 100 here, which will put a hold on 10 credits. And then select pagination settings. So as I mentioned, these pages are paginated. So you have options on the right-hand side here to select your pagination, and you can see kind of examples. So if I scroll down here, you can see I have these kind of next page kind of examples, and then you can scroll down and see which one works. And it is this click on next. So if we click that, and then I just need to click this next button, and then that's it. Then I can save the captured list, and that's all I need. So then I just click finish on the bottom right, and then the robot name, extract data from tops women, we'll save that, and then it kind of previews the bot. While that's previewing, let's come in and we'll create a new scenario, and then we'll just call this the simple retrieval scenario. And what we're going to use is Browse AI has a native module. So your options are you can run a task specific to a bot, you can make an arbitrary API call depending on what's in their API documentation, or you can watch and wait for results. So I need two scenarios here actually. So this one will be run a task. And then once that loads up, you can click on robot. Now map is turned on for some reason there. So we'll just turn that off and you'll get the list back from the API. And extract data from tops women is there. So I'll press that. And then here you have your placeholder URL that I was using as a starting point. And you can dynamically inject URLs into this, which we're going to do a bit more in a few minutes. But for the moment, I'll leave it at that. And I'll leave the limit of products to 100. So we'll press OK to that and press save. And then I will come out of here and create a new scenario. And I'll call this one simple retrieval response. So there are two scenarios needed. This is already more complicated than a standard API because you need to trigger the system to go and crawl and actually collate the data. And then when it's finished, you can use this Browse AI instant trigger. So we can create a webhook here. That can be our simple retrieval trigger. And then you choose the robot, which is the tops women. And then the event is the task has finished, ideally successfully. So we'll press save to that. And then what we can do is if we run this and then we come back here to the request, the idea then is you triggered the task. So we've just sent this request to this bot to go and crawl this page. And then here we're just waiting for the result. And if we jump in here to the actual bot, and if we click on history, or you can even see it there, created by the API running the task. And as you can see, it's simulating the browser actions that were captured during that training process, and it's finished. And there are the 50 products in the women's tops. And then we jump in here, the event has fired. You can see the task, and then under captured lists, you can see women's tops. There's a full array, and there are all 50 products that are on that page or within that category of the website. And then you can kind of dive in further. And there's a nice kind of status where it shows whether something has changed on the product card or not. Now, it's not diving into the product details page. Something might have changed on the product details page, which wouldn't be reflected in the list page. But if something has changed on the list page, it'll flag it as status changed. And then you can use that as a flag to maybe update a database, an Airtable, a Google Sheet, whatever it is. So quite a nice feature. And there's also a preview of the data then within the Browse AI robot. You can see the various options, and then it's obviously missing certain pieces of data which are flagged. So there is a monitoring system within Browse AI, And then this is color coded based off if something has been added or has changed or has been deleted. Great, so that's that task finished. And what's interesting at the bottom then is it does give you a screenshot of the page as it was when it was crawled. And you can see the steps that it took to actually crawl that. And sometimes during the training of a bot or during the execution of a bot, if there are errors, they'll appear here and you'll be given the option to actually skip that. So I suppose that's kind of nice transparency on what the bot is doing as it works through. And then here you can see I'm using make.com, and I will be able to then use an iterator to save all of that to an Airtable, for example. You don't need to use make.com though. You could, in the integrate section, send it directly to Airtable, use Google Sheets, use Zapier. There are various options there. So I think first of all, the difficulty with this is we had to use two scenarios because number one, we need to trigger a request, which can take time. If you're crawling 20 pages, that could take 5 minutes, for example. And I have found the Browse AI system to be quite slow, particularly when it's doing deep crawls. So it can't execute in a single scenario because you just don't have the ability to wait for a response like that. So if you're using their native make modules, you would have to use two different scenarios. You could put a sleep in here, let's say, and sleep for 5 minutes. There's a maximum of 5 minutes that you can set on make. And then you could use the make an API call and then try to hit the retrieve a task. And then if it's complete, retrieve the outputs. The problem with that approach though is if it goes longer than 5 minutes, your scenario is going to error out or time out, and you're going to have to manually go in and actually fix it. So it's not a good solution. So you would need to kind of design it around having two separate scenarios, one that triggers the request and one that catches the response, and then you can kind of complete your workflow from there. So that's the simple retrieval example. The second action I want to show you is how to chain robots. So how can we do a deeper crawl? Because for example, we're currently only crawling this category page. There's a lot more information on the product details page. There are more images, there are product descriptions, there's more information, there are reviews. None of that is on the category page. So how can we actually work through this list, click through to the product details page and extract out all the information from that? So the way Browse AI do it is you have to set up two different robots. One that captures everything on this page and it outputs a list of links. And then the second robot captures everything on the product details page and then extracts out the text or the lists. I don't really like this approach. I think it would be way easier just to train a robot to click through different lists and traverse down through a navigation. Having to create multiple robots is just an overhead, I think. But again, a design decision that Browse AI made. I've created a new robot and I've gone into the training mode. This time I'm using the Google Chrome extension, which gives you this little floating head, which is quite nice. So we'll drop that over there. And again, now every click that you make is being captured. So don't go navigating through the site, because then when you run the bot, it will do that. So instead, you just click here. And again, your options are capture list, capture text, or a screenshot. So then here, I'm going to capture text. And then as you hover, you have these bounding boxes and you need to select what you want. And again, just be kind of super careful about what you want to select. And if you accidentally press a box like I've done there, you can just press escape. Escape is essentially undo, which is nice. There's the product name. And again, a little bit hard to catch this one. There's the product SKU. That's the stock status. That's the price. This is the product description. And then you have different options. Do you want to capture the HTML or the visible text? So we'll just say the text. And then what to do then is you press enter, and then you can set the kind of parameter names for these things. So this is name, this is SKU, this is stock, this is price, and this is description. Then your options are, do you want to continue capturing or finish recording? So I'm going to click continue capturing because I want to capture the images. And the way to do that on this website is if I click here and then I capture list, and then if I choose the image, or if I hover over the image and if I press it, and if I press it again, I have these options below, which is, do I want to capture the image URL or the alternate text? So I want to get the image URL. I press that, and now if I press enter, and we'll say this is image, and then we get this pop-up which shows that it's able to extract out 3 different images, and that corresponds to the 3 different thumbnails that you see there. So we'll call this one images. And again, you need to select kind of maximum number of rows, and then that goes against the budget of credits you have, as I discussed before. So I'll just say 10. I don't think any of these products have more than 10 images. And there's no pagination. There is a little arrow to the right-hand side, but it's not needed because it's already extracting out everything here. So we'll press capture list. And then what's really nice about this browser automation now, and the fact that it is training based off your clicks, is that if I click more information, for example, I can then capture the text. And again, there isn't really an option to capture this in a structured way. So what I'll have to do is capture the HTML and process it after I extract it. So that's done there, and I'll press enter, and this is more info. And again, another click. Now there's no reviews on this page. Other products do have reviews, so I do need to capture this. There's a temptation to kind of go and find the product. Don't do that, because every click you do is what the bot is going to do when you run the bot. So I'll just save it here, and then I'll retrain the bot with a different URL that actually has those reviews. So let's finish recording there, and we can save it as that. And then let's find a product that actually has reviews. So this one has reviews. Okay, so I'll just say, yes, that looks good. Then go into settings and retrain robot. This time I'll use the robot studio. Let's go back. Use a different URL, the one that actually has reviews on them. So we'll save that and then retrain the bot. This is kind of hanging here, and I have found this a little bit with the robot studio, that sometimes it either doesn't load or it crashes. Oh, great. Okay, it's loaded. So I'm now in the retraining mode. On the right-hand side here, you can't see the previous kind of actions that you carried out, which I think would be nice. I think it would be better to be able to kind of make specific changes on the actions that you do. You don't have that ability. That being said, you do have the ability to select from drop-downs. So I pretty much now need to retrain it completely, but it'll be a lot easier, because if I click on this title, for example, and then if I click confirm, I can choose from the parameter names that I've already selected. So it is a little bit easier. So I'll just go back through this process again. This time I can choose reviews, and this is quite nice because it does at times pick up data attributes. So it's able to pick up that the title actually says 60%, even though we're only seeing stars here. And obviously a number is better than images in an Airtable, for example. So that's a nice feature. It doesn't always work though. If I choose here, it doesn't pick up data attributes. So it can be a little bit hit and miss. There's the description, and we'll get the visible text. There's stock, SKU, price. So yeah, a lot easier now that we can just choose from these. This is a new one. So this is rating, description, and then let's record that click for the more info. That's the HTML. And now when we click reviews, this is a JavaScript load. And that's really nice, because if we just downloaded this web page into Make using a get a file, or use a service like Firecrawl or Scrapeo, those services don't dynamically trigger actions like this, or at least they don't easily. I think Firecrawl, you can configure it like that. Here, by actually triggering the click on reviews, the browser has now loaded the reviews, and now we can capture them. So that's a really nice feature. We can capture this as a list, or we can capture it as text. I'm tempted to just get this as text. So yeah, I'll just download HTML. And kind of best practices on web scraping. Generally speaking, the web scraping software should be focused on extraction. You can do all of your post-processing after. Of course, if you can get data cleanly from the page, you should do that. But it is good to kind of separate the roles. Use this for extraction, and then use the likes of make.com, or use Python or JavaScript to actually clean up the data after it's extracted. So we'll confirm that, and that is reviews. And then finally, we're missing images again, so we'll just capture text. Nope. So I'm trying to actually extract these images again, and I'm struggling with it. I don't know why. Let's try it again, third time. There can be a lot of trial and error with this. There we go, that's the one. Nope, still not the one. There are two big images, so it should be able to capture it, because it did last time. And you can see for some reason, when I hover here, it's hovering there. So I don't know, is that a bug with this studio or what? Nope, cancel. Now let's try it. Yeah, this is definitely struggling. I might need to retrain again. Yeah, it's not getting it. I might try this with the Chrome plugin, just because it's not working for me here. Okay, retrain robot, use Chrome extension. Let's start with the images. There we go. Why wasn't that working in the studio? No idea. So yeah, 10, and there are no more items to load, and that is images. Yeah, for some reason in the Chrome plugin, when you click the drop down, it doesn't work. But actually, if you type it out and press the green button, it does work. Again, I don't know, is that a bug or what? So this one is rating. This is stock. Why it won't allow me to click, I have no idea. As you can see, this is an honest review. Okay, that's everything. What I'll also do is I'm going to capture the sizes. And as you can see, it's able to pull out the individual sizes with a delimiter of a space. So I'll actually choose that. So they are the sizes. The problem is it's not able to pull out the colors. So we'll only be able to capture the HTML and again, kind of process it after. So I'll call this one sizes and colors. We'll finish recording there. Okay, and then you can kind of preview the data. So I'm happy with all of that. We have our two images. You can see the various kind of steps that it took to actually extract that information. So all of that looks good. And then your options are, you can set up monitoring to monitor that on a daily basis, let's say. You can add integrations, similar to what we did on make.com, or you can do deep scraping, which is to chain two robots together. Now, it's not deep, as in it's 2 levels deep. If I click on dashboard and then go to workflows, what I can do is I can add a new workflow. So we'll call this crawl product details pages. And then this is limited to 2 robots. So in the first robot, what we want to do is extract out the product links. So for example, all of the links on this page. And then the second robot, which I've just designed, will extract out all of the product details that are on those pages. So back into here then, I have this bot set up called products in category. So if we choose that, that's going to output a product link. And if I click next step, then the second robot I want to use is this extract data from Phoebe Sweater, which I've just set up. And then we're going to inject the product link from the first robot into this, and you can set the limit of the number of images you want to extract. So then next step to that. And then you just need to decide when you want the second robot to be triggered. So when robot A extracts the product link, use it to extract out the product details from the details page, every time, or only when changes are found, or only when new items are added, or when new items are added or changes are found. So we'll do this version of it. And then you can save and enable that workflow. And now you've daisy chained two robots together, one that goes to the category page and pulls the links, and then the second extracts all of the data from those individual pages. So a key aspect of all of this then is the second robot that you created, it needs an integration. Because if you're triggering, let's say, the first bot from here, the products in category bot, and let's say you wanted to hit this kind of women's tops category, once we save and run this, that's going to spawn lots of tasks to go off and crawl all those product details pages. But what's it going to do with the information is the question. So it needs to be able to save it to a Google Sheet or an Airtable, or you need to have a make.com scenario set up to catch all of the information. So we'll do that here. This is our simple retrieval response. So maybe we'll change this now to, let's say, the workflow retrieval response. And we'll just delete that one out and then choose the bot that we have just created. So we'll just create a new webhook now, and this will be the workflow retrieval. And then you choose the robot, which is the Phoebe Sweater one, and the event is task finished. So we'll save that and press OK. And now if we come in here, and let's just set the product limit to 2, because just to test this, we only want to extract out 2 products. So the bot is now running within the Browse AI platform. You can see it was created by the API and it's finished a few seconds ago. And now it's just gone to the Phoebe Sweater bot that I created, and it's doing a bulk run on the 2 links that it found. And then you can check the details of those, and they are the 2 tasks that have been spawned from it. So that's the workflow in action. And once they're finished, they're going to hit this webhook that's listening for a response, and then you can do something with it, like add them to an Airtable. Brilliant, there you go. And then if we click on task, you can see captured texts, and that's what we have. So there's the name, the rating, in stock, SKU, price, description, etc. And there's the 2 URLs of the images. So that's how the workflows work. The limitations, though, of the workflow is that you can only connect 2 bots. I don't understand why they don't add another function to allow you to connect more bots. It's way too basic. I have built out a scenario on make.com that can handle the 4 levels of depth that is needed for this e-commerce website. So a quick update from the editing floor. I've got an answer from support on some questions I asked, and they do actually support chaining of workflows together. It's really not that obvious from the interface, but they have an article here on it where they talk through how you create the first workflow, which connects robot 1 to robot 2, and then a second workflow which connects robot 2 to robot 3, and then when the first workflow finishes, it automatically triggers the second. So I missed that completely in this video because it really isn't that obvious, and I could not find this article. After reaching out, they provided a link to me. I'll leave a link for this in the description below. This definitely makes deep crawling with Browse AI a lot easier, and it would greatly simplify the make scenario that I build later on in this video. But next up, what I want to show you is authentication. And this is a really nice feature of Browse AI, because so much browser automation and converting websites into APIs relies on having access to the logged in area of a system. So let's now create a bot that can actually log into this website and access a customer specific price or customer specific data. So we'll just copy out the URL here and then build new bot. Again, we'll extract structured data and we'll just paste that in. And here we're going to say this website needs logging in. So there are 2 options. We're going to try the session cookies one first. So before you start the training of the bot, if you come into the website and click sign in, from here, if you enter your credentials, so that's my credentials here, and you click sign in. Once you confirm that you're signed in, so you can see welcome Daniel Walsh on the top right. So I now know I'm signed in. Then if you come back in here and click start training your bot, choose login with my session cookies, and then you can choose Robot Studio or Chrome extension. I'll choose the Chrome extension, sometimes that's faster. And then if I click OK understood, you can now see that welcome Daniel Walsh shows on the top right. So you're logged in. The reason is I logged in before I started training the bot. So the session cookie is set and the bot now has that session cookie in its memory. So now if I come down here to gear, bags, and then if I go to the second page, I've set up this product on this test site to have a customer specific price. So you'll see it's push it messenger bag, it's $10, regular price $45. If I open up an incognito window here and then I go to that gear page, you can see it's $45. And you can see at the top right that I'm not logged in. you can see that the bot is now able to access information that's hidden behind an authentication system or a login screen. So then if we click on this, let's just capture the text. Let's say that's the product title, and this is the price, special price $10. And we'll just save that for the moment, and then we'll finish recording at that. And then this is the logged in product extraction, and then it reruns the bot just to make sure it's actually able to carry out the extraction. So this is actually taking forever, and I have a feeling it's going to error out. It has tried this 3 or 4 times. So there is a kind of a retry facility within it, but I'd say the session cookie hasn't actually worked, and that's why it's caught in a loop trying to fix it. And eventually it's going to throw an error, and I think that's what's going to happen here. So what they suggest is if you do get an error when you're trying to use the session cookie, is to then revert to using your username and password as part of the training of the bot. The issue with that is the username and password are accessible to Browse AI. And if we take a quick look at an article that they have on their site, how do you make sure my data is secure? They talk about how all passwords entered during recordings are encrypted with an algorithm and stored in a database. And they're only decrypted on the server when running a task, because obviously they do need the ability to decrypt the password if they're going to be putting it into a login form. So they talk about the various compliance levels, etc. Up to you to decide whether you trust what they say or not. Even with all of this information and all of this kind of security, I definitely wouldn't be trusting any platform with really important usernames and passwords that I would have for, my email, for example. But if it is a site where you can kind of create a new password, it's not that sensitive in terms of if there was a data leak, then it might be worth it, but very much up to you whether you want to go down that track or not. So yeah, you can see it has errored out. So we'll click retrain robot wherever we can. Yeah, and I don't seem to even be able to retrain this bot or delete this bot. So again, I don't know, this may be a bug in their interface. I kind of just need a way of deleting this and creating it again. Manage robots. There we go. Yeah, let's delete it like that. Okay, so let's try it now where we actually just explicitly enter the username and password. So log in with my password. Let's just log out here because we need the ability to log in. We'll start training bot. We'll use the Chrome extension. Okay, and then we'll click sign in. There's the username and password. We click sign in, and then we'll just go to gear and extract out that customer specific price again. So there's the product name and the price. Finish recording. So logged in V2, and then let's see, can the bot actually do this itself now in their own cloud platform? Yeah, and there you go, that worked. So definitely I think entering the password explicitly kind of works a bit better than the session cookie one. Now that's just my experience across 2 different websites. I might be wrong, but yeah, that looks good. And you can see then off the back of that history, it is able to extract out the special price of $10. So if you were triggering that on make.com, you would be able to extract out information hidden behind authentication. We can also test this out on this web app as well, which has its own login system. So we'll extract data from here. This website needs logging in, and you need to log in with the password, and it's currently logged out because you can see log in. So we'll train the robot with the extension, then we'll click login. Then we click sign in. Yep, and that worked. And then let's just extract something from here. So let's say we wanted to extract out these listings. Perfect. So we'll do that. And same as before, let's see, can it actually carry out now the exact same actions on the cloud server using the username and password that I just entered in the training. And there you go, that worked. There's a strange row at the top, but it was able to pull the 3 listings that was hidden behind that login screen. Again, the session cookie version didn't work for that, but the login by providing the username and password did. So next up is filling out forms, which is what an API does with a post request. If we come into our real estate listings, and actually let's just retrain this now using the Chrome extension. And again, we'll fill out our username and password and click sign in. And now what we'll do is, let's say you had an automation that wanted to push in new real estate listings into this app, for example. Again, it's an arbitrary example just to show how you can fill out a form. So then add manually. So we'll just put in property address. We'll click create listing. Okay, so that worked. So even that alone is an example of a form submission. And then this is another form submission. So let's say this is to let, and then the rental price. So these are just placeholders that I'm putting in for the moment. So we'll say this is $1,000 a month. It's 4 bed, 3 bath. And now we're just updating the listing that we just created. I don't know, can you hear my fan spin on the laptop here? But for whatever reason, when I'm actually training the bot in this Chrome plugin, it puts a lot of pressure on the CPU. So the fan is spinning like mad here. And I have seen instances where the Robot Studio actually produces an error, and maybe that's the reason why. So we just saw the green success message there. So we are finished kind of recording, but you can't actually finish recording without capturing something. So maybe we'll just capture text and maybe just the property address, for example. So if we save that, Finish recording. And now it's going to try to emulate that on the server as opposed to in my own browser. Okay, and that worked. So we have property address. Now that's obviously of no use. The crucial thing now is if we want to run this task, you need to provide it all of the information that you just filled out. So now all of those kind of placeholders that I put in, like to let, rental price, $1,000, you can now change that. So now you could say this is for sale, and asking price is, $500,000. And of course, on a one-off, that doesn't make much of a difference. But when you bring this into an automation, so let's just come back into make.com. And when you want to run a task, if we change this bot now to the bot we've just created, the real estate listing bot, you can now programmatically put in everything. So the power of this is immense, because let's say you were in a real estate company and you had your own system where you would curate all of the listings that were going live, and you were ready to kind of publish and syndicate that out to lots of platforms like this platform that we're playing with here. Then instead of the manual effort of going in and clicking on add listing and adding in the text or copying and pasting from your system, you could build an automation like this that then is triggered by the addition of the listing in your own system, and that runs the task to inject that listing into a website that does not have an API. So this is mega powerful if you can actually set it up like that. And the fact that it's using authentication means that you are able to create and you are able to update as well, because within this workflow we have created with the pop-up the listing, and we've updated based off that listing as well. And that has so many use cases for so many different industries. So that's the filling out forms example, which covers kind of create use cases and update use cases. Another version of an update use case here might be if there was a search facility. So if you were looking to update a specific record, either you might have the URL of that record that you could just directly navigate to after you've logged in, or you could use a search facility to find the record that you want, to then programmatically come in and make the changes to that form and click save. It's the same with the delete. So there's a delete feature here that, again, you can find the record that you want either by injecting it directly into the robot or using a search facility, and then programmatically click the delete button. So that covers the update and delete scenarios that would be common, let's say, in post requests of an API. So then the last areas are deep crawling and complex data extraction. As I mentioned earlier, when I was recording this tutorial, I wasn't aware you could daisy chain workflows for deep crawling. So in this section, I build out a make scenario to handle that deep crawling use case. Parts of this scenario are still needed though. So you'll still need this first stream, which triggers the first robot. And then all of this is redundant because that will be handled by daisy chaining the robots within Browse AI. And then you still would need this last section here, which processes the responses from the bot at the end of the chained workflows. And finally, this section here, generate fingerprint, might not be needed either, because you should be getting back a status of changed or unchanged, which you can then decide whether you need to update the record in Airtable or not. So to then simulate a full deep crawl of a website, what I want to do is drop in this homepage URL, and then I want the bot to navigate to the top level category, to then navigate to the second level category, to then extract out all the product details. So that's a proper deep crawl and extraction of a website, and is a very common use case in kind of web crawling, and a common use case when dealing with APIs. So to do that, I've created this kind of deep crawling scenario, and I've also built this Airtable. So all of this is triggered from this crawler. We have this trigger robot button. So let's trigger the bot, and then I'm going to talk through the stages as they happen. I have my scenario enabled here. We'll click trigger bot in Airtable. At the moment, I have 10 products already in the database. So that has just triggered, and you can see trigger robot 1, there's the record ID, and that's come up here, and it's triggered the first bot, which is the get the top level menu. And that's all that's doing. It's just extracting out these 5 links. Okay, that's finished successfully. So then come down here, and you can see that we have hit this path now. So this is the response for the first robot, and we have gotten the 5 top level menu items. So then we're triggering this run a task 5 times now, and there's a response to that, which has now triggered the next bot, which is the categories bot, and it's triggered it twice here because there's only 2 sub-menu items in the top menu. So now we're into bot 3, and there's running the task, and it's running lots of tasks now because there's lots of sub-menu items. There we go, it's just landed, and it's working through, and it's now triggering the bot 4, which is the product details bot, and it's triggering it now for every product that's actually been returned by the previous bot. And this is where make.com could consume a lot of operations because there's a lot of products on a page. So we'll jump into product 4, simple product details, and there you go. It's queued up all of these tasks now to actually fetch these product details. So we come back out of here, and then it's going to come down this track. We'll wait for one of them to land. Yep, they've just landed. You can see them all flowing through. And then what we're doing is with the product details coming in, we search Airtable to see does that product already exist in the Airtable database. And then if the product doesn't exist, it comes up here and it creates the product on Airtable, but it's not actually saving anything. It's just creating the product. and then it's setting the kind of record ID, the Airtable record ID, in a variable, and then it comes down this flow, it gets that variable, because within make.com, what's happening up here isn't visible for what's happening down there. So you need to set and then get, and then we're going through the update process. The reason I designed it like this is I don't want to duplicate the logic across different paths in my make scenario. Then there's a really nice trick here, which is to iterate and aggregate. So what I'm getting is an array of product images. There could be 5 images, for example. And within my Airtable, I want to save them all to a single field, as you can see there. And all of these products are now flowing through, which is really cool. And as you can see, all of the images are stored in a single field. So that all is handled within this array aggregator and iterator. So what happens is it iterates through the product images, and then within the array aggregator, we have a target structure for that one field on Airtable, and we're dropping in the URL that we're getting within the iterator, and then we're setting a kind of an arbitrary file name. And then within the update a record module in Airtable, I can then just pass this very clean array that Airtable needs to actually build out that single field. So that's what we're getting here. And yeah, they keep flowing through. So this system is working now, and it's working pretty well, I must say. It probably is a bit slower than some other crawling systems that I have used, but it's a fully no-code system, so that's fine. And if we click on this one, for example, there are only 2 images there. Let me see, do we have, yeah, there we go. There's 3 images here. There's just 1 image there. And yeah, that's working really well. And if we jump into the make scenario and get out of this webhook is getting hit constantly now by Browse AI with all of the product information. And that's the beauty of webhooks. They're really scalable. So you could hammer this webhook. You could send it 100 requests a minute, 100 requests a second. Make.com should be able to handle that, and all of these products are now being saved. So working very well. And if you look at some of the details then, the product names are coming in, the stock status, obviously the images, the product codes, the review ratings are coming back, and we have the full list of reviews, which again probably needs some sort of post-processing. And there's the product URLs and then the fingerprints. So there we go, we have 152 products imported. I just disabled the scenario there because I think we've proved that it works. And then last but not least, complex data extraction. Just to go back to this Airtable, you'll see that I haven't populated product sizes and colors. And the reason for that is there's a huge amount of complexity in this specific use case around sizes and colors. So if you click black, for example, you'll see that size small and XL is out of stock. Or if you click blue, small is out of stock. If you click purple, they're all in stock. And then the prices change. So like the extra small color is $77, the purple is $65, the blue is $25. Now this is just dummy data that I've created, but I'm just illustrating the point that some browser interactions are very complex. There's no unique URLs for these variations. And even within the back end of this e-commerce platform, this one product with this single product code, there's actually 12 different products set up, all with different stock levels and price levels. So I think this is the limitation of a system like Browse AI, that it is just not able to handle this level of complexity. And I have played around with training a bot to be able to click these buttons, but it hasn't been able to support it. From the response I got from Browse AI support, they do say they can handle dynamic click actions even when elements might not always appear. But they also say that they'll have to refine the robots themselves to see can they skip some clicks if they're not available. So I think what they're saying there is the editor that you have access to can't necessarily handle them, but maybe they have greater flexibility in the back end of their system that they can handle it. So I still think it's a little bit of a failing that you have to use their support to actually get some of these bots up and running. I think no-code systems should be able to have flexibility so that you can do most, if not everything yourself. And I think it is worth calling it out that a system like Browse AI absolutely has its benefits. It's no-code, so the learning curve is quite low, and it does work for a number of use cases. You know, if it's simple data extraction requiring logins, simple creation or submission of forms, maybe updating of forms or triggering buttons that delete records, for example, all of that it's actually quite good at. But the limitation of Browse AI is its simplicity. You don't have the customizability of having kind of dynamic lists and dependent extraction based off those clicks. In the previous video that I did with webscraper.io, I was able to extract this out, but the learning curve is a lot steeper to use in that no-code system. So if you have a complex use case, definitely no harm trying Browse AI. They do have a free plan. But if you're not getting what you need, you might need to move to the likes of that webscraper.io platform and their Chrome plugin. If that doesn't work, you would then need to look at kind of coding something using Python or JavaScript, using a framework like Cheerio, Scrapey, or Beautiful Soup. The other limitation of Browse AI is it's more built for static layouts. So if you look at this page, size and color, for example, appear. Whereas if you go to one of the bags, for example, they don't appear. So if you train your bot to extract out this information, when the bot gets to this page, the information doesn't exist on that page. And from my testing, that has resulted in the bot encountering an error. So it's not able to gracefully handle situations where data doesn't appear on a page, which again is a shortcoming. I think they need some sort of graceful handling, or maybe injecting default values if the data doesn't exist, because you end up losing resilience in an automation based off maybe just very slight variations of a structure of a web page. And on this website, for example, there are other product kind of formats and types. This one, for example, is kind of a grouped product. This one is a customizable product. So in certain cases, maybe it is the right call for the robot to encounter an error here, because this is wildly different to some of the other pages. Whereas simply in the case where size and color don't appear, I don't think that should result in an error, because then how do we handle that? We're going to need kind of multiple bots for multiple product types, and then the whole thing gets way more complicated. So that is an issue that I've encountered. And similar to the dynamic click actions, they do say they can handle dynamic layouts, but again, you might need to contact support so that they can see, can they skip some clicks? And you can see that here, when I get this error after running the product details bot on a page that doesn't have the data points that were in the training. And again, this is just a variation of the product page. And then you can see at the bottom right here, once it started to try to capture the list of sizes, this is a backpack that doesn't have sizes, and you can see that it encountered an error, and then everything else was skipped. But there's no options here. There's no way for me to say this is an optional data point and that you can progress with the rest of the automation. So they must have the facility to do that in the back end of the system, but that's not something that we have access to here in the editor, which I still think is a bit of a failing. And will be a nice feature to add to make it a lot more flexible for users. Another issue I've encountered when actually training the bot is it's not able to handle hover actions. So if we come in here to the training bot, as you saw, I have one bot that captures the top level list, and I have another bot that captures the second level list here, which is on the category landing page. But I shouldn't need to do that because they're already actually rendered here. So I already have this list. The problem is though, if I click on the bot and try to capture the list, there's no way for me to simulate the hover. It captures that one link, but it's only ever getting the top level items. But I don't really understand why they didn't build a hover action so that I would be able to capture the second level items. So that seems like a bit of a shortcoming as well. I hope this video has been helpful for you in learning how to turn any website into an API. I think it very much depends on the type of website that you're trying to access via API. I think your automation design will need to be split into requesting information and receiving information, which isn't usually how you interact with APIs. And then depending on how deeply you need to crawl a website or how complex the data structure is of the website, this might or might not be a good fit. So I hope I was able to shed some light on that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.